Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. It's a new season. It's a new cricketing season. We're starting a little bit early now because the momentum Proteas are in the UK, and we have to talk about them. But most importantly, there's been so many changes happening in South African cricket, and Tim and I will get to that. But welcome to season 2 of the Full Quota Podcast. Tim, how are you doing?
It's good to be back. It's been a tough 8 weeks. I am entirely to blame as to our extended break. If you're looking to change internet providers, think again.
Don't name
you do it. Oh, gosh. It was horrendous.
Let's not name and
No.
But
it's good to be back. It's good to be back. Let's leave it at that.
8 weeks ago, so much cricket has happened. The Momentum Proteas went to the UK. They played in a test match, and they didn't lose a test match. It was the first test match they've played since 2014. And so it was against England, so we know who we call when the Momentum Proteas play England. We've got our friend Melissa to give us a bit of a sense of the test match, as well as the white ball series that's going to be happening soon. So let's bring Melissa on and have the conversation. So hi, Melissa.
Hello. It's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Likewise.
It's awesome, especially because we're talking test cricket. And so first question from me to you is, do we need an extra day? Should they play 5-day cricket?
Well, I'd say definitely. That is, we've seen the players come out after that game and say, look, the 5th day would have meant most likely a result. I was in Taunton the next day and it was beautiful blue skies, not a single drop of rain on the forecast, which was really frustrating. But also, I think there's so much discourse and conversation around that 5th day because of how infrequently we have test matches. It wouldn't be such a big deal to have a 5th day if we had more frequent games. But if you look at England, where 6 or I think 7 now of their last test matches have resulted in draws, because the tests happen so infrequently, that 5th day seems just more frustrating because you're desperate to get a result, and there's pressure from the media as well. People are going, you should do a positive declaration, you should, almost risk losing just to satisfy the crowds, and especially with women's cricket, kind of prove something, maybe to new viewers, maybe to people who haven't seen it. So there's a lot of pressure, and there's got to be more, obviously, pushing for more test matches, and then I think almost the 5th day debate can come in. But I think a lot of people would be satisfied with 4-day tests, but just more of them across the year.
Yes, so in case people are wondering what we're talking about, the Momentum Proteas played first test match in 8 years. Last time they played was against India in India. And I'll just give a sense. It ended in a draw, but there were some incredible standout performances. Marazan Cup scored 150 in the first innings. Annika Bosch with a really good 30 there. Then Nat Siva in the English first innings just blew the South Africans away with an incredible 169, supported by a returnee, and I'm going to ask Melissa about her, Alice Davidson Richardson 107, and then South Africa batting to save their lives. Dumisi Kukune with probably the best 33 you'll ever see in South African cricket, 33 of 134 balls. Marazan Cup 43 or 58 to see off the final day, which had a lot of rain and cloud cover, and we as South Africans, Melissa, were praying for rain. I'm sure you were just hoping that you could get just a little sliver of sunlight, but what a stand from Dumi. Let's talk about the performers. It's from the English on the English side. Izzy Wong, incredible bowler, got her debut, and she showed the world why she deserved to get a call up a little bit earlier, maybe at the World Cup.
Potentially. She's one of those players who just makes things happen. And there was a lot of confusion, actually, when England got onto the pitch bowling to Toomey and I think Lisa at the crease there, when England opened with Siva and they opened with Cross and then they went to Lauren Bell and you were going, where is Izzy Wong? The rain could be coming at any second on this 3rd day and you haven't thrown the ball to your most energetic, your fastest bowler. And I think it was a bold call to play her in the test match because only a week prior, the coach, Knightley, I hope I haven't got that wrong. She was saying that they didn't think Izzy Wong was ready. She had a slight niggle and they didn't want to like risk anything in the test match. But things seem to have changed in a week. She got her call up, and as you said, boy, did she impress. And she's warranted that call up into the white ball stuff. And she's just one of those big players. She really makes things happen.
Yes, if you weren't watching the 100, then most of you wouldn't have known who she was. She really made a name for herself in this test match alone. Without that exposure in the 100, even when South Africa had that partnership with Maurizon and Bosch, she was the one that was rushing those two in their shots. They were having to play their shots a second or two quicker. When they faced Davidson and Bell, they were fine, but they were comfortable. They weren't comfortable against Izzy Wong throughout that entire test match.
And I think
so it's huge plus for her.
Yeah, and I think she made the difference because, I mean, we had a lot of rain delays, obviously, up in the commentary box to have a lot of chat and debate. And one of the big things which came out of it was that South Africa, at moments in the game, especially when Siver and Alice Davidson-Richards were batting, really looked like they were missing Ishmael and Kaka so much that their bowling looked a bit flat at some points. Whilst if you look to England, there was also that concern that our bowling lineup was going to look like it was missing Brunt and Shrubsole. We had Shrubsole up in the commentary box, tucking into food and having a wonderful time with her feet up. And Catherine Brunt was in the crowd downing pints and singing chants. So there was a bit of worry on our side too. But Izzy Wong, I think, made people just calm down a bit. And actually Lauren Bell as well impressed me a lot. They just made it look like England didn't actually miss Brunt and Shrubsole that much. And I think that kind of was the difference between the two sides, was those players who were able to step up. And not to take anything away from the South African bowlers. I mean, Cap put in a mighty effort across that test match with the bat and the ball, and seeing her walk off after that fielding innings, she looked like a broken woman. But even as you say, Anneke Bosch, those 3 wickets were vital in England's batting innings. I mean, dismissing Lamb, Beaumont and Dunkley in quick succession, she was the breakthrough. And another bowler who I think didn't quite get the rewards, but considering the pure amount she bowled, was de Klerk. She bowled 28 overs across the game, and she may not have got the wickets or looked too attacking at points, but she just kept going and kept working. And I think that was one thing which Lise said at the beginning of the test match was, we don't play test cricket that much, so we're just going to go in there, throw our hearts into it entirely. And I think the South African bowlers did that really well.
Yes, and I think there are times in that test match you kind of saw that, that come through in terms of the way in which we're approaching the game and the lack of 3-day cricket that they play, because we don't play that. And that 3-day match they played before, the week before, was the first time they actually played non-timed cricket at that level. So there's a lot of learning and and we hope that obviously the South Africans, Cricket South Africa, give the ladies a lot more opportunity. Alice Davidson-Richards, I think I've said her name. Hopefully I said her name correctly. Yes, her batting with Davidson-Richards was insane. Really, really good to come back in. It's because normally what you get is when you're young, get an opportunity like she had, but you can't cement a place on the side and you get sent back. It's really hard to come back in. And it's even harder to come back in a format that nobody plays that often. But she did really well and give us a little sense of where her future lies and where she's come from. And is she going to be in the white ball stuff? Because I was, apart from the fact that she was smiling at everything and every moment, she really is a great cricketer.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love her. ADR is the name we go for, because it's a bit of a mouthful to keep saying Alice Davidson-Richards again and again. So ADR, she's, as you mentioned, she's fantastic. She just loves every second of the game she's playing. And you raise a good point that, especially it's a trend I've noticed in England, that you do tend to get called up very early. And if you don't quite perform when you're at a young stage, you do get sent back to domestic cricket. And it's really hard to fight your way back in. I think there's only been 2 players who can come to mind who have managed that, which is ADR, and the other one being Tash Farrant, who's unfortunately been ruled out for the rest of the season with a stress fracture. So disappointing for her, but it's really, I think, a good sign to be sending out to the domestic setups around to say that, yes, you may not be 21, 22, but if you have a good season and if you exhibit the skills and control we're looking for, we will give you a chance. And she seized her opportunity. I think at one point in her innings, she was about 8 off 47 balls. And we were up here going, oh my goodness, she's not looking like she can hit the ball off the square. But suddenly, I think when spin came on, especially when Malava was bowling, she just came into her own a bit more, and we saw her giving herself some room at the crease and using her feet, and that innings just accelerated. She almost beat Nat Siva to 100 in the end, and it was really impressive. And I think obviously her call-up being what she brings with the ball and the bat. She's a good fielder as well. She was jumping in and out of slip and in those close catching positions, and it's also, she's a really mature player for her age. She is one of the senior players for the South East Stars, so that's her domestic setup. Her county is Kent, and I think she's captain there before. She's always been one of the senior players. She's played with Charlotte Edwards, with Susie Bates before at county level, so she's really been around these experienced players. And I mean, as we mentioned, she really sees her opportunity back into the squad, stepped up, and she has been called into the white ball squad resultingly, which I think is a format which she's probably flourishes in more. She's got fantastic slower balls. And just when she brings out that shorter ball, when she can come back in those short, snappy spells, she's a tall bowler. I think she's around the 6 foot kind of height, which you don't quite notice. And she's really broad shoulders, so she can generate a lot of pace and is handy in the depth. So an interesting call-up. I think it shocked a few people, but as soon as I saw her name in the squad, I was like, bring her into the side, because having that all-rounder alongside Nat Siva, suddenly England's team just looked pumped for the batting, and it turned out to be a useful partnership.
And Tim, as Melissa was saying, that English batting lineup was very long, and looking at how South Africa came into that game, obviously the draw is a result we will celebrate, but there were things that we saw that could possibly be improved. What did you see from the side? What did you like? What did you didn't like from the momentum purchase?
Well, just on ADR, I think I'm right. I think she was on 9 or 41 balls. When she was in that first sort of hour, I was thinking, get a wicket here, and we're in. We're in. As long as they're good, we've got 5 wickets, we've caused them problems at the top there, get them in. And what we lacked was an Izzy Wong. We lacked Shubmin, as Melissa was saying. We lacked that extra bit of pace, that extra bit of something that just wasn't there to give that little bit more of a surprise to the England batters. So they knew that the short ball wasn't really going to come. And if it was going to come, it was not going to be particularly threatening. I loved Annika Bosch's performance, but every time she looked for the short ball, she just didn't have that yard of pace that you need to bowl that short ball. So it was a little bit too samey, that bowling attack. That was problematic. And also the batting, it's very harsh to be critical on players that have literally played one test match. Literally one test match. 9 of our players were playing the debut.
If this was the men's side, we'd want them out. So just,
But that in that initial Andrew Steyn, Volfart, Giselle Lee, none of them look comfortable. At no time in their innings they look comfortable. Giselle Lee had the right idea, go out there and play shots. She went to the extreme. She went baseball, but to the extreme. She chose the wrong ball to play the lofted shot. Volfart just didn't look right. She just wasn't clicking, and that happens. So that beginning of the innings, it needed a little bit more. It needed them to stay in a bit longer. It needed them to see off that ball for an extra half an hour, 40 minutes, and get themselves in and then play the natural attacking play. They were chasing the ball at times, which is understandable, very understandable.
It felt a bit for me, just similarly, okay. The South African batting lineup reminds me a bit of the England men's batting lineup at the moment, that actually the top kind of three, you're going, we can kind of skittle through this. As you mentioned, Wolvaardt didn't quite look her normal self, which was a disappointment actually after that warm-up game, scoring that beautiful 100. And maybe it's just the kind of analysts behind the scenes for England have, she's such a hyped up player, and they've gone, well, we know your strength is the cover drive. We're just going to bowl straight to you. And they really did. They absolutely nailed their bowling to Wolvaardt. But it felt as if that top order was really, really shaky. And actually, when you got to Lee and Cap, that's when England suddenly went, okay, these are the big wickets, similar to a Root, a Bairstow and a Stokes. It was an interesting dynamic, whilst probably for England, it was the complete opposite, when we've got a bit of a shaky middle order at the moment with Dunkley not in bad form, but she's obviously relatively new still to the game. And then Amy Jones, who I'm sure I'll mention later, who's in a bit of a slump at the moment for England. But yeah, it was interesting for the South African batting, but Lizelle Lee definitely brought the Bazball entertainment. And you know what? I'm very glad, because after her duck in the first innings, we worked out across her 2 test matches, she was averaging 2. I think it was 2 or 3. And if she'd got a pair, then she would have averaged 1.5, which we were desperate for her not to average. So I'm glad she came out and gave it a bit of a whack to push that test average up a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to ban that word. You can't say that on this podcast. Please, no. Like, okay.
What's that?
I'm going to ban
what word?
I'm not going to say it. It's that word. I don't want to say it. I'm going to ban it. It's a word. It's the phrase that shall not be named. Anyway. So I think from my perspective, in terms of looking at the momentum Proteas, 9 debutants tells you a whole lot. And it tells you the disservice that has happened to South African cricket, for women's cricket, for years. And I'm happy that they got the test match, happy they got to play. Yes, we always want to win, but we're always up against it, especially with Ayabonga being unavailable, Shibnim unavailable as well. When you're out your 2 spearheads, there's nothing more that you can do. And that's what essentially South Africa's bowling attack kind of missed. The odd, because obviously with those 2, they make you honest. And I love Tumi. She's got a lot of development ahead of her as a bowler. And she's very accurate as a bowler, but that accuracy comes when you're bowling against and gets wickets when you're bowling with a Shibnim on the other side. People want to take you on, and that's when you get your wickets. And I think it kind of felt, even with Mlaba, they just kind of felt like they didn't have that partner on the other end. Even though Anneke Bosch was getting wickets, you could still get runs on her. Happy for Anneke Bosch. I think she should be a mainstay across all formats in the side. Happy she got an opportunity. And yeah, like it's about building, and for me that was the thing. But the one thing that I think the ladies took away from this, and I hope that we get to play another test soon in the next year, is the character, the fight on that final day that Dumi showed. She came in as a night watchman, and she effectively batted out the whole day. And there was a cover drive she played off the back foot with all the timing in the world. And you sat there going, okay, we see you. And I was really impressed by her, because she was 2019 Emerging Player of the Year, and she hasn't gotten a lot of games in the white ball formats because of Aya and everybody else coming back looking to World Cups. And so you kind of felt like her development is stagnated. But that innings elevates you as a cricketer across the board. And so I was truly happy with that. Melissa, last point. What did you think of the South Africans? And yeah, what were you impressed by out of the 4 days being at Taunton and having a test against a non-Australia, a team that isn't Australia?
Well, that was a relief to begin with, because it was nice not to be absolutely battered for once. And yeah, I was so excited when the test got announced originally and exciting against opposition. I was disappointed we're not having a later test in the summer when India women come over. I feel as if it could be something within these multi-point series that there should be at least one test in each series. But as you mentioned, it was fantastic. It started. Disappointing, it was scheduled for only weekdays. A lot of people have piped up about that because a lot of people want to come see the women's test because they happen so rarely. But to be able to get time off work, and then also for those who aren't familiar with UK geography, Taunton's right down at the bottom of the West Country. So it's not exactly a central kind of game. Fortunately, the ODIs and T20s coming up are scattered across the country, and we've got a few more games in the Midlands. But that was a bit disappointing, and also the advertisement of the game wasn't particularly good. It was overshadowed by the men's test match against New Zealand the week before and the men's test match against India the week after. And I think a lot of the governing bodies and actually the kind of ground it was at, for which is Somerset Cricket Club, could have done more to advertise it. But speaking of South Africa, Tumi was an absolute star. And I know we've spoken about her before on this podcast. When we were actually I think in some kind of rain break, we were talking about the prospect of a night watcher. And I said, I'll send in Tumi. People looked at me and were like, no. She can't really bat. And I was like, I don't know. I was quite impressed with her defensive technique in the first innings. Oh, that was fantastic. So thank you to Tumi for proving me correct, because I don't think anyone defended as well as her. Maybe ADR in the patience at the start of her innings, but those two combined were fantastic. She played the straight ones in such a solid defensive technique you'll ever see, and had such good judgment outside the off stump. I mean, some of them she was leaving off length in the end, which you don't see as much in the women's game as well. When the ball was in her area, she played a shot, and as you mentioned, it was probably one of the most important kind of 33s she'll ever get in her career, and actually a career best. So she was the standout for me. And as you mentioned with her bowling, hopefully more and more across the series we'll get to see her with ball in hand, because only through games will you get development. But yeah, I was impressed by her. I was impressed by Malaba, who I think we mentioned, it never felt as if the South Africans had a kind of an alliance with two bowlers working in correspondence to help her out, but actually she stood her ground really well. And there was a lot of talk up in the commentary box of the flight which she gave it, and similarities to Eccleston, which is a lovely comparison. And she was positive in the field. She was chatting to the crowd. So yeah, really, really impressed with those two. I think, I mean, obviously Marizine Cap having to bear the weight of the world on her shoulders, and that 150 in the first innings, she was the anchor in that innings. And we had that supportive role from Leeds for a bit with her 27 earlier in the innings, but her and Bosch looked the strongest in that innings. I wish Bosch could have gone on to get a few more, but yeah, she was absolutely fantastic. And actually, one final member who I think always goes under the radar, or normally is Jafta behind the stumps. I think she did a really good job.
Oh, she was amazing.
She did fantastic. And I love a wicket-keeper in glasses. You don't see that too often. I think she did an interview before the game saying about how, obviously, because there's this lack of longer format cricket, it's really hard to stay on it with the ball, not only having to go down into the squat position, endless deliveries, but just in terms of concentration, because they're not used to that. And also that role of the wicketkeeper to be the one who's hyping up the team. When the other team's on top, we could still hear her voice out there, calling at the players, getting them all riled up and being noisy behind the stumps. And again, she had a grin on her face the entire game. And yeah, I'm excited to see her go on with the gloves.
Yeah, I think the thing with Sinalo is the batting. We need to see a little bit of improvement in the batting too, for her to push Trisha Chetty out in the white ball format. And look, I think her test cap will go a long way in helping her, better her game. Yes, Tim?
Just wanted to ask about those deep balls. This was the first, and it was a marked difference of what the English bowlers could do compared to the South African bowlers. The English bowlers could swing it throughout the test match, particularly low and bow, whereas the South Africans, they swung it, but not by nearly as much. That was yeah.
I think you mentioned that, the South African bowling attack looked a bit samey. You had a lot of right arm seamers who were all doing the same thing and slightly nipping it away, a slight bit of movement off the pitch. But England came in with that variety. You had the experience of Kate Cross, who came on and bowled the ball on a £2 coin on the pitch every delivery. Izzy Wong, who we've spoken about. But yeah, Lauren Bell, really, really exciting to see her name in the list. It would have been interesting to see who would have scraped into that spot had Emily Arlott not been suffering with kind of post-COVID symptoms. For anyone not familiar with Arlott, she was called up to the Test squad last year, didn't make it into the squad that time, and then made herself unavailable for this test finally because she was still suffering breathlessness from having COVID the week before. But they're quite similar bowlers. They're both really tall. They're not express pace, but they both get that really sharp inwards movement. But Lauren Bell, she will swing an old tatty tennis ball probably in its 5th year of life, even if it's been chewed up by a dog. She can swing anything. And we've seen her mainly in white ball stuff, playing for the Southern Vipers, where she'll take the new ball. And she will be swinging that ball in the 50th over of a one-day game. So everyone was kind of looking forward to seeing what she could do with the red Duke ball, which is, of course, the women not used to using a Duke ball as well, usually used to playing with kookaburras. And yeah, it's interesting bowling because I think one thing for Lauren to work on will be maybe developing that swing a bit later. I think that's one thing we spoke about, was that actually she has quite early swing. So when it was easier to read, I think we saw Cap and Lee both get to her a little bit in the end as they targeted that leg side boundary. So it's going to be maybe something for her later on, just to see if she can not only get that swing through the air, but a bit off the pitch. And then the challenge for her in the white ball stuff is going to be controlling the swing, which is she can be prone to bowling quite a few wides and low balls in the white ball format, where everything down the leg side is a wide. So if she is called into the white ball squad, that will be the next challenge for her. But yeah, she's a young, exciting cricketer who I'm sure has big things to come.
Yeah, speaking of white ball cricket, if we, South Africa and England, have 3 ODIs and 3 T20s, as you've mentioned, Melissa, around the UK. We're now back to a format that I think South Africa are much more comfortable with, and they would feel as though they're on level par with England. How are you seeing these next this white ball series? Well, obviously, we're looking towards the Commonwealth Games. Everyone's in the UK getting ready for that at the end of the month. But what do you think of this? What do you think will happen, as well as what do you think the teams are looking for coming into this series?
I mean, in terms of what will happen, I really can put my hands up and say, I don't know. I think in that World Cup, we saw a South African side who, apart from a few injuries, which it'll be interesting to see the teams who go into them, are probably playing in a fantastic peak at the moment. They've got some fresh faces in, but also they still have those experienced players. And it's rather the same picture for England. They've got the Knights and the Sibbers. They'll have Catherine Brunt back in the white ball stuff, but they are trying to push in a few more of the youngsters after not necessarily a bad World Cup. They made it to the final, but I think a lot of them would admit they carried a lot of luck in getting into that final after losing those first few games. And it's definitely a new era for England, which going into this summer and then the Commonwealth Games, I'd like to think we're going to be seeing quite a different squad to what we've been used to, and also calling up a few more uncapped players maybe. We saw the England A squad announced, which I've got written down here somewhere, which we've got a few exciting names of Bryony Smith, who's probably going to be captaining it, Maya Bouchier, who's a fantastic top of the order batter, and even people like Freya Kemp and Marie Kelly. Marie Kelly is a fantastic 6-hitter who may be seeing her name called up in the Commonwealth Games. And there's a whole list of players who have been performing in the domestic stuff for a while, and I think it's a good thing that we're going to maybe be seeing a few of those England players who thought their place was a bit cemented in the side, actually having a few contenders going, hang on, no, we're performing in domestic cricket. If you don't perform, we're going to come take your place. And that's really, it's good to see. But yeah, I think this white ball series is going to be something to behold, and hopefully we'll see quite a few matches because they're evenly poised teams for sure. And I think South Africa, well, they're going to come back fighting at that first ODI in Northampton next week. But yeah, I'm absolutely clueless and actually quite looking forward to just sitting back and watching. I'm quite happy I'm not working too much of it, so I can watch on TV.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to be, well, obviously Aya and Shivnam will be back. I think Coach Hilton's also looking to see who his team is to go to the Commonwealth Games, because Tim, I think we can medal at the Commonwealth Games.
I'd be surprised if we didn't. I would go as far as to say it would be a disappointment if we didn't. I really think we can.
What are you expecting from?
Hey,
what are you expecting from the Momentum Proteas?
I'm expecting a different approach. Obviously, I think there's going to be a lot more of an attacking play. I think that you're going to find that maybe, just maybe, that 20-odd Lazali, maybe that's turned things around for her, because she's had a very poor patch recently, in all formats. So maybe that just a little bit of, she had a couple of nice boundaries over the top in the test match. Maybe you think that would be a good thing, but I think it's going to be South African batsmen are going to have to get that good total and get the pressure on the England team. And the England team is an interesting one. I think they are going through a sort of some kind of a change. They've relaxed. They've made changes to the tests. There does seem to be an air of change there. But their setup is so strong that I don't think that they'll be weaker. It'll just be different. I just think there'll be a different kind of approach.
It definitely feels as if there's something in the camp which has gone, we can't be complacent anymore because Australia's off shooting into the sky. They are the best of the best. And actually, England are no longer this elevated place with them because India's moved up, South Africa's moved up, New Zealand's moved up, and they can't be complacent with these teams anymore. And that's where we see them having to take a chance on the younger players. I mean, first of all, Wyatt is back into the squad for the white ball stuff, who's not a younger player, but there's almost the matchup of Lizelle Lee, you could say. Those are the two players who could change a game entirely, especially in the
T20. Game away from us in that semi-final.
Wow, yeah, she's going to be the big player. But then you have Emma Lamb at the top of the order. She's one of the most exciting T20 players coming into the squad now. It was fantastic to see her given the chance to open the batting in that test match. And it's definitely a transition stage. They were complacent in the World Cup. That's why they lost those original games. They had a bit of a slap to the face and went, oh my goodness, we need to start winning in order to improve. And now it's definitely going to be a case of going, we can no longer look at these teams and just think, oh, that's going to be a walk in the park. No, you're going to have to fight hard if you want to beat the Proteas. And you mentioned, I think they're going to be a real contender in this Commonwealth Games, just because of the pure power they have. If they come together as a unit and also have that one player stand out with the bat or with the ball, then I can't see too many teams, apart from maybe Australia, being able to really, really match that firepower.
And the other thing about the series is a level of the unknown with the English side, because obviously if we're going to start seeing some new names, seeing a different look of the Momentum, Proteas would have to adjust, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how they do that. The other thing is the amount of cricket they've played. Aya stood out of the test match largely because of the amount of cricket she's played already this year, and so you want them fit, but you also have a balancing act right now to make sure that they get to the 28th of July with a squad that's really fit. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how Coach Hilton navigates that.
And the other thing is England A beat the South African side in a warm-up to these white ball series. I'm not going to profess to saying I saw a lot of it, but they did pip South Africa. It was quite close, but So I'm sure there'll be girls there who will want to get into the squad. Hey?
Allow the momentum purchase to be fine. We're just changing formats. When South Africa changes formats in cricket, there's a game that they lose. At least it was a practice game.
Exactly. And I'm pretty sure they have another warm-up game coming up at Leicestershire.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So the one at Cardiff, I kind of tuned in for a bit, but I'm pretty sure there was no commentary on the live stream. So it's always a bit awkward to watch that silence. But there is going to be commentary for the next warm-up game. So it'll be a good chance, you say. They've got to get their loss out the way. They've done it at the right time, but now they've switched mindsets into the white ball stuff, and it should just be down their street and playing into their strengths, really. Because the only problem with these England players, yes, if we may see Wong return, we may see Bell return, the white ball stuff. There's a lot narrower margin for error in the white ball stuff. We saw Wong; she was given permission to run in and bowl as fast as she can. She could spray it about a bit. She had a few low full tosses. Lauren Bell was just told to swing it as much as possible, so we had a few swing down the leg side for 4. Those margins for error in the T20 and ODI are so much smaller. That 4, which swings down the leg side and goes for 5 wide, that could be the game change. Izzy Wong coming in, bowling quick. We saw her in the 100 last year, playing for Birmingham Phoenix, and I saw her get absolutely torn apart by Danny Wyatt because a lot of batters want pace on the ball in T20 and ODI. Danny Wyatt was waiting for her to come into the attack so that she could launch her. And I think she hit her for something like 2 sixes. And we talk about how much spin prevails in the shorter format. These younger, quicker bowlers are actually suddenly going to have to go, yes, we've played one test. You can bowl a few full ones outside the off stump. They get left alone. But if you bowl that, Laura Wolvart's going to smack you through the covers in an ODI. She's not going to hold back. And it's going to be an interesting adjustment whilst they will have Catherine Brunt to consult. They will have Kate Cross. But with the experienced bowlers coming back for South Africa, I think the balance actually shifts a bit more into South Africa's favour with the bowling actually in the one-day stuff.
No, that's true. That's true. Melissa, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on. All the best. We'll probably have you on in the weeks as the games unfold. So, enjoy it, and hopefully we'll get to see you on the other side.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me again.
Sure. Thanks, Melissa.
Cheers, Melissa.
Tim, thank you very much for organizing that. That was a really lovely conversation. I must say, seeing the momentum Proteas in test whites was a beautiful, beautiful sight. And also the caps, like those caps are really actually quite big because Tumi could fit all her locks underneath that green cap, which was really awesome to see.
I like a baggy cap. I don't like the hard. I like a baggy cap. cap.
No.
It's good.
Tim, I'm still white brim hat. I'm there. If you can get me a yellow Australian one, I will love you forever. But I'm South African, so I'll take the green one. Just for it. I just like the color yellow, and I thought Australia's yellow one was so awesome. Okay, Tim. Moving to news in South Africa, there's been so much news that happened this week. 2 things happened. We've got some boardroom things that happened. Enoch Nkwez, the new director of cricket. So from assistant to director of cricket, and that was something that we didn't expect. There were also other appointments. The CFO, chief marketing officer, chief commercial officer were appointed as well. But that was the big news. What do you make of the news? And you know my thoughts, but I want to hear yours first.
Look. I'm not surprised, actually. I might have been surprised if it happened a week after he resigned. But as the thing went on, the picture looked as if something along those lines could come back. It looked like he was coming back in some way, shape, or form.
As a director,
I'm not. Huh? Sorry.
So the thing for me is, he was Boucher's assistant. Now he's Boucher's boss. Where did you pick it up that this could actually happen?
Because the narrative was swinging towards that way. And it was basically saying, right, Boucher, you've got a choice to make. This is going to happen. Either you both behave like adults and do the right thing, or you go. That was basically what was that was the kind of thing that was. And Boucher was never going to go when he came clear. He wants to prove all the doubters wrong. Whether they like him or not is irrelevant. He wants to show that he knows what he's doing. I don't see a problem there at all. Now, I think that both of them, it's done. What's said is said. What's done was done. It's now moving with forward. I think it's a good thing. We desperately needed a cricketing person at director of cricket. We needed somebody who knew the game. So I think it's a very good appointment. Enoch's intelligence has never been in doubt in terms of his cricketing knowledge. Now he's a very intelligent person. There were small quotes from him over the last couple of months when he was commenting on South Africa's approaches to various games, and they all made sense. They all made perfect sense.
But those were contrary to what the coach had been providing, and that's where my worry comes.
Yes.
Is that
well, they come from very differently in terms of coaching. They do come, but Enoch's position now is very different. Enoch's position is not now we want to play the way England are playing. Enoch's position is above that, overseeing everything and having a good relationship with the boardroom. He's going to be more in the boardroom side of things. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, but I do think it's a good appointment. I think it's a good step. There've been 2 or 3 good steps by Cricket South Africa recently, slowly but steadily going in the right direction. So so far so good.
Yeah, I think my thoughts on this is that I'm ecstatic that they chose Enoch. I didn't know this was coming. I didn't think it was going to come, but I was really happy that they did choose him because I've always felt that Enoch.
I'm here, don't worry.
Okay, Tim.
Just talking.
Even when. Okay. Charge that camera. Enoch, when he was at the lines, the game that he played, the approach that he played, and what he set up for the generations, the next couple of years to come was really important. And him coming back into the Lions dressing room for the back end of the season really helped them in that winning of the One Day Cup, and him providing guidance and everything else. And I think that's a role this role actually suits him a lot better. I know he wants to be a head coach, and I get it, but I think from a growth of development of cricket, dealing with players, dealing with selection, dealing with all the things and in the boardroom, that kind of is a good position for him. And we've seen that with the English squad, because I'm assuming the England squad that was announced, he had a hand in approving and having a look at and bringing some players back who under the Graham Smith era, we didn't see come back. And if you look at the obviously the test squad to England kind of speaks for itself. The only difference, Tim, is that Temba Bavuma is injured, but Ka Zondo comes in. Similar, Lucius Sipamla is also in as a bowler there, but that's a very level-headed squad. The selection panel went for Bangladesh plus the guys who are back from the IPL. Obviously, the question is does Aiden Markham keep his place? Does Ryan Rickleton play? Obviously, with Temba's injury, I think they'll fit them all in. But I was happy with the test squad. What did you make of the test squad?
Solid, very strong, and it's certainly going to be competitive. I genuinely do believe it's going to be a very different approach to England's. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about it. But very strong.
We'll talk about that later on.
When we do a proper preview, we'll analyze and go into it. This is just more of a general chat. So very happy with that. I'm less happy with the white ball squads. I'm content. Let me say.
Let's talk about the people who are back. So white ball squads, obviously Timber's out. So in the ODI setup, Keshav will be captain. Heinrich Klaassen and Riese Hendricks retain their spot. Janaman comes back in. Lungi and Dile are back in the fray. And then you have Kaya Zondo and Dwayne Pretorius in the ODI squad playing again for England. Lazard Williams actually keeps his spot in that. Happy about that?
I'm happy, except I am. What's the word? I'm despondent with the continuation with the all-rounders that are not doing the business. If we are truly honest, in a one-day setup, Petliquire and Pretorius, both of them are not doing the numbers that justify their.
It's very safe.
Particularly the Pretorius selection. It is safe. It is consistent. I will give you that, and it means he's probably going to be going to Australia later in the year, and probably going to be going to India for that World Cup next year. I don't think it's the right move. I think it's very negative. It's very much they know their guys, but they're not producing the goods. I think they're missing something, particularly going to India when you could be using people like Muthusamy and Luba. I think
might not make it to India.
Hey?
We might not make it to India. Super League points on the line here, and I look at the squad, and I don't think we can compete against the world champions who we've played them multiple times over the past couple of years, even through COVID, and they have given us a hiding to nothing, especially in the 50-over game. I know we did well against India with the similar-ish squad, but the absence, obviously, they're resting Rabada in the ODIs, and you've got Ngidi, you've got Nokia with his injury issues. So you find yourself in a situation where it's a very young team. Well, it's an experienced team, youngish bowling attack. Some of them haven't played cricket like Ngidi in a while. So you've got that issue, and I question, because I know and I love South Africans wanting to experiment, give youngsters a chance. But is this the right time when you're chasing a World Cup qualification spot? Yes, chances are we'll make it to India, but why must we make it hard? What are we trying to see here? Whereas in the T20 squad, and let's talk about that, obviously Timber's away, but they've made David Miller the captain, which was really interesting because the last time we had a T20 series, Keshav was captain, but anyway. You've got the normals, the usuals from last year's World Cup, but then you've got Gerald Coetzee coming in as bowler, Wayne Parnell also getting a spot there, Tristan Stubbs getting an opportunity after India. But the most important one, people were crying for him, was Riley Rousseau. We thought he was in the wilderness. He wasn't coming back. But a question for you, Tim. If Riley comes back, why can't Faf come back?
Good question. And I wish I could answer it. I can't. I literally, I cannot. The only thing I would say is Riley has given a guarantee that he will be playing for the Knights domestically, but not necessarily all formats. That's the key. So he will be coming back probably to play our T20 competition, whatever it's going to be, if it's going to be whatever. So that will say, right, okay, he's committed to South Africa and T20s. Faf is not. That is the crux. Faf is
so it's domestic performance.
Playing all around the world. And it doesn't seem
a guy like Faf play domestic cricket when he's given the past decade and a bit to South African cricket?
Again, I wish I could answer. I don't know.
It's not like the domestic players. Yeah, it's not like the domestic players would complain if you selected Faf and he didn't play CSA T20. I do agree. What's good for the goose must be good for the gander. But there are some things at the edges the way you could give leeway to, especially for people who've shown loyalty. So, Tim, I'm with you. Emmy as well. It's good to be. Yes.
No, I was just gonna say, people don't know Riley is in incredible form. The ODI, the T20 series against England, in the English Vitality Blast, he's averaging 46, and his strike rate is 189. Only Alex Hales has a better strike rate than Riley was saying. So he is bang in form.
Here's my thing. Timber's unavailable for the entire England tour. Where does this leave him at this stage of his career in the Proteas setup? I know Mark has backed him, and I acknowledge that, and I'm thankful for that. However, I sit back and I question as to, especially for the T20s, if Riley gives us what he's been giving everybody else in these as a mercenary in T20 cricket at the top of the order, maybe it clicks with Quinton de Kock. Is there a question as to whether Timber does come back? Remember, this guy is the captain, so he's the top of the name of the sheet. Is there a little bit of a correction that might happen, especially with maybe a shake-up with director of cricket and everything else?
It is an interesting one. I was thinking about it before we came on. And I was thinking the only way a shake-up might be discussed is if we beat England, but not by like on the last over we demolish them. If Riley goes into overdrive and makes 120 of 60 balls and 80 or 50 and goes into complete oblivion and smashes England all over the park, then you can't really ignore that. You can't go, well, Timber's coming back, so we'll put you at the sidelines. You can't. T20 cricket needs, what the South African team needs is an explosive cricketer. It's been dying out for that. Somebody at the top three to go absolutely
across all formats. And I think and this is probably my last point, which is why I think it might be a blessing in disguise, is that if Aiden Markram doesn't open the batting in the test and bats at 4, you could then see a different version of the phrase that we'll not see. You'll see Boucher ball, and Boucher ball could be Aiden being aggressive in that middle, because a lot of our batters are very samey, which is the word of the podcast, samey. And having Markram there with a little bit of a license to try and, be a little bit more aggressive, that could be a blessing in disguise for the Proteas across all formats. And we've been missing that. In the T20, we've kind of gotten that aggression from him in that middle order. We just wanted that at the top now. In the ODIs, we also want that aggression at the top, which is why it'll be interesting to see if Yanaman Malan gets a nod over Reza. I doubt it, but I think he should. And similarly in the tests, maybe having Aiden there in the middle of it all could be a difference change in something that could. I don't think batting can ever beat Bazball. I honestly do think bowling is what could beat. I've said it, I know. What could beat it. But having someone like that in the middle order who can change, and yes, I know the guy averages like under 30 in Test cricket, but Timber's injury, and we saw that in T20s, injuries and unavailabilities create opportunities for people like it did for Aiden Markram. So I'm excited to see how that works in the Test match with him at 4. We'll talk about that all, Tim, as we wrap up one. Any final words?
No, all good. And only a promise that we will be back soon, and it won't be another 8 weeks. And we will have a proper in-depth discussion about the various series, so the various formats that the Proteas are going to play.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you very much to Melissa. This is the first episode of season 2. 2, not 4, but 2 of the Full Quota Podcast. We'll be carrying you through this South African English summer as the English South African summer, also known as Christmas in July for the cricketing fans, because we're going to have so much South African cricket going through. But yeah, so we're covering you previews, reviews, all the drama, and leading you to the start of our domestic season. And also, we're going to have some very interesting times, because obviously we're playing cricket in Australia at the end of the year, Tim. We're going to be waking up at like 3 a.m. doing podcasts. So that's going to be fun. Okay, we won't be. We'll still be waking up normally to do podcasts. But outside of that, thank you very much. And have a great day. Have a great week. And goodbye. And le sale kakahiso.